Hello, I'm Dr. Melita Tate, and I have a guest with me today, Dr. Katrina Bogden. We're here at Grassroots Healthcare, live coming to you from the clinic. We wanted to talk to you today about an interesting topic, something that I'm very excited about, and it's our constant fight or flight response, our sympathetic versus our parasympathetic systems. But first of all, I want to tell you where we're located. Grassroots Healthcare is a clinic for uninsured patients or patients who have high deductible, meaning we see patients with insurance. We just don't take insurance here. We try to be as free as we can from government and insurance influence. So we have more time to spend with our patients. We're located at 91st and Sheridan, 6530 East 91st Street, right between here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right next door to Bill and Ruth's. We're in a little strip mall. And we have a show that we put on once every 1 to 2 weeks, talking about some natural ways. We try our main thrust is to try to get our patients off of as many medications as possible, understanding that lots of our patients need and do require medications. I'm an MD, so I was trained mainly how to prescribe lots and lots of medications, and so I'm starting to learn more about natural ways of healing, because I do think some of our medications are making us sick over the long term. And a lot of my patients come to me very sick and need medications to start with, but I always like to try to, at the very beginning when we see the patients, put them on something else besides a medication to start getting their health better, so that we can look forward towards coming off of those medications. And so along with being a clinic that does not take insurance, we're also a clinic that really focuses on your health and wellness, and getting you off as many medications as possible so that you can live your best life and not be sick from being on medications. So if that's something that appeals to you, or if you know someone who would be interested in that, we want you to visit us. You can join us here, or you can show them. You can like our page. There's a place where you can push for comments. Even if you see this afterwards, we will be checking our comments on these videos, and we'll try to answer those comments on upcoming episodes. So at any point when you watch this, if you watch it later tonight at home, then you can comment on it, and we'll be checking that periodically, and we will be doing another show next Friday. So anything that you're interested in, maybe we'll be able to try to comment on that in one of the next few shows. But our office number is 918-878-7733. I'm a internal medicine and pediatric doctor. That means I see grown-ups and little people. So if you or anyone you know would be interested in that kind of a clinic, our office visits start at $59, and we do and things like that. So give us a call. And so I'd like to introduce to you my guest today, Dr. Katrina Bogden. She and I have known each other for quite some time. Yeah, thank you. Glad to have you on the show.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Great. She is a naturopathic doctor. She did 4 years of medical school in Washington. Is that right?
In Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. Yeah. 4 years of medical school and then 2 years of residency to train to become a doctor. And here in Tulsa, you don't have to have training to call yourself a naturopath. But in some of the states, in the western upper states, I think that they have requirements. And so she has attended extensive schooling and residency. And so I invited her to be with us today. Can you tell them a little bit about your practice?
Absolutely. So my practice is called Our Healing Roots. I'm located over at 5550 South Lewis Avenue. So it's near the Southern Hills Baptist Church at 55th and Lewis, just north of that. And my telephone number is 918-813-1874. And I see a wide range of different people. My area of specialty is actually in cancer, integrative oncology. So I do a lot of care there, but I see anything from children to adults with chronic issues, just the wide range of things. And
basically anything that would come to a regular doctor's office you can see.
Right, but I would not, in the state of Oklahoma, diagnose or treat those. So when I need further workup, or certainly when I need a good doctor to refer to, I love referring to your clinic, Dr. Tate.
Right. And there's lots of places that she refers to. Obviously, she sees patients with and without insurance, too.
Correct.
Will insurance cover any of your treatments?
Insurance does not cover our treatments in the state of Oklahoma, but we are covered in other states.
Okay. So if you're interested in naturopathic therapy, if you know anything about it, or even if you don't, we'd love for you to give Dr. Katrina Bogden a call at her office. What was your number again?
It is 918-813-1874.
1874. Okay. So what we wanted to do today was talk to you about something that, and come to you from both angles, both from the MD field and the naturopathic field, called chronic fight or flight. Many of you understand the fight or flight response. It's usually when you have a stress response to something. And that's mediated by our sympathetic system. But there's also a parasympathetic system too, which is our rest and digest part of our system. And so many of us are in chronic fight or flight constantly, almost 24/7. And one of the interesting things is once you remain in a setting, if you're limping for more than 6 weeks or anything like that, your body, your brain will send that down to your subconscious. Your subconscious will take over and perpetuate that behavior so that you don't have to continue to focus on it. And so that can happen with fight or flight, and your subconscious can be still pouring out all those chemicals even though you're not going through the stressor anymore, and it can be inappropriate. So she has some great ways, natural ways, for us to get out of our chronic fight or flight and start to spend more time in the parasympathetic, balancing those two so we have more time in the rest and digest. And that may have a lot to do, I'm thinking we're going to get into this today, a lot to do with our metabolism, how we process our foods, our digestion, and maybe help us with weight loss, things like that. And that's what America's very interested in.
Indeed.
Yeah, and help us if we're having trouble sleeping. So we're going to address lots and lots of those issues today. Can you give us a little information about, from your perspective, about the sympathetic and parasympathetic system?
Sure. It is absolutely key. It's one of the things that I think plays in so much to every patient that comes in through my door. So many people have an imbalance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So, and what happens when we're chronically stressed, it shuts down so many of our ability to heal. It suppresses our immune system, so we're not able to get over things as well. We're not sleeping as well, obviously, and digesting our food. From a naturopathic perspective, it all comes down to how we digest our food.
Really,
so
everything, huh?
We love digestion. We love to know everything about how we digest food.
So
and it's
allergies
so key.
I know that we're starting to learn a lot about allergies
Yes.
and autoimmune diseases in the medical field. So many of the things that we're learning are supportive of this. This is not kook medicine. This is stuff that we've known from ancient times, and we just haven't had the science to necessarily prove it yet.
Right.
But people have known that it's worked, and so now we're starting to be able to see the two fields coming together, and some studies are being done that are very supportive of that. So, but we are seeing that like autoimmune disorders have a lot to do with the gut, and so parasympathetic not being stimulated or not being in balance plays a big role. And again, she spoke about immunity, and we know allergies have a lot to do with being exposed to things that come through our digestive system. When the digestive system is inflamed or too upset or too immature maybe to keep some of those things out, and then our body recognizes them as foreign. We're seeing a lot of our autoimmune disorders. So there's a lot of science to back up things, and she's going to give us some simple things we can do at home, cheap, easy ways that we can start to become more in balance between our sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. So.
And I want to play off just a little bit. You talked about weight loss and how it is that we sleep and how do we improve all of that. And again, getting back to my favorite part, the digestion piece. But it's really, really important that when we eat, that we're in that parasympathetic relaxed mode where we are relaxed, because that's when blood is going to our digestive system. That's when we have stomach acid present to get digested. Our digestive enzymes are turned on. So it's really important that we use some of these techniques right before we're about to eat and to slow down. I mean, so many times we're on the run, and I've been guilty of it too. We're going fast, but if we can slow down how much we eat, it's amazing. People can lose weight by just slowing down and chewing their food and eating.
So not eating in the car? Is that what you're telling me?
Not eating in the car?
Wow. All right. So that's a wonderful tip, actually. And I know back here we've had some really busy days. Last Monday we were so busy here in the clinic. We had 39 people come through, and that was a lot more than we normally have. And so we were so busy we barely took time to eat, and we were kind of laughing about that, but it's pretty serious.
It does get pretty serious, yeah. It definitely contributes to inflammation in our gut and not being able to break our food down.
Okay,
so
all right. So we need to slow down first of all.
Slow down.
And be mindful when we eat. Now, this brings up something I'm very excited about. I read this book called Secret Life of Plants, and it spoke about how the plants can detect our energy, our DNA, things like that. And we'll talk about that maybe on another show. But eating with good intention towards what you're consuming, rather than mindlessly eating, but being mindful while you eat and thankful and grateful and having a high level of contentment whenever you're taking in food is going to help your digestion and your nutrition. So there's different ways to explain it. My way that I just did sounds kind of I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it definitely sounds pretty airy-fairy. But then she's describing a way and a reason why, because we're more inflamed in our intestines and things like that whenever we eat, when we're and we don't get as good a blood flow to our
blood flow and our ability to break the food down.
So that kind of goes back to understanding the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic. The fight or flight response, it wants you to be able to escape a predator. So anything that's going to help you to escape a predator is going to be in mode there. So you're going to get good blood flow to your muscles. You're going to get good blood flow to for being able to see, for vision. What else?
Yeah,
during the sympathetic response.
During a sympathetic response, you're going to be able to breathe in a lot more.
And heart rate will be
faster.
faster.
Rate increases, absolutely.
So these are things to help you get away from a predator. And a lot of times that predator may be your boss these days instead of some kind of major animal. My staff's nodding in the corner.
But it's a big deal when you can't run away from your boss, because it just stores right in the body.
Yes. And so whenever we don't have good blood flow to our intestines, but we're trying to digest our food, obviously things aren't going to work as well as when we get good blood flow there. So
So a couple of quick things that you can do to change that. Let's say you are maybe eating at work, or you had that really busy day, and what are you going to do to just quickly turn on that parasympathetic nervous system? You don't have a whole lot of time to eat. You don't have a lot to deal with it. So one of the things I do, for example, is to use our eyes to turn that on. When we're in that sympathetic mode, we're looking straight ahead at what's coming at us, right? So that we can run away. So the parasympathetic nervous system gets engaged when we look other directions. So you can look up, you can look to the side, and just try that for a moment. Do you notice, like, automatically when you look up or to the side, feel maybe just a little bit more relaxed?
Yeah.
So that's a quick way of just doing some different eye movements that can help to relax you. The other thing that you can do is to use your breath. So we often associate the sympathetic nervous system with the inhalation and the parasympathetic nervous system with the exhalation. So if you want more parasympathetic action, exhale longer. So I often tell my patients, you're going to inhale for 3 seconds, then exhale for twice as long, 6 seconds. And you can do that series of breathing, and just breathing out twice as long as you inhale, 3 to 5 times, and you'll be amazed at just how much your body maybe starts to tingle. You get better blood flow, you relax. Very, very quick, easy, fast things that you can do right before you eat to just really turn that on, and to smell your food and say grace, and those are always very important.
To take time to be thankful and to use your other senses whenever you're eating, besides just to get enough fuel to keep going. You want to, as you're eating, you want to use your other senses. So sight, smell, touch, texture. Enjoy those things as much as you can, without taking longer than you absolutely have to, obviously, if you're in a hurry, but just a little bit can make so much difference on how you're going to digest that meal and how it's going to settle with you. And
absolutely, 30 seconds to a minute.
And we owe ourselves 30 seconds to a minute to take care of ourselves.
Yes, we certainly do.
Yes, we certainly do. My patients definitely owe that to themselves. So, and that's why we're bringing you on the show today, is because I want to give this to you. Great. So I wanted to touch base too as we go through, and you may have a system that you wanted to go through, but I wanted to make sure and bring up too the fact that this is kind of the reason why we don't swim after we eat, right?
Yes,
can
absolutely.
You explain how those are
right? So let's say you've eaten, so you've turned on your parasympathetic nervous system, right? And then you're going to go swim. Well, when you're doing physical activity, you're doing a lot more of that sympathetic action, and so you're not going to be breaking down your food as fast, but then also you're not going to perhaps respond as quickly as you might need to if you're swimming in a dangerous spot.
Right. So let me just go back over this briefly. The sympathetic system is the one that is our fight or flight system. It's the one that helps us escape a predator. So we're going to have increased heart rate with that. We're going to have increased ability to breathe so we can run and get away. or fight. We need an increased heart rate or increased breathing for either one of those, because they're going to be physical. You get better blood flow to your muscles with that. You get better vision, like she was saying, a better focus right in front of you. What else? Anything else with the sympathetic system that you can think of?
Other things like your mouth goes dry, maybe your palms get sweaty.
Okay, yes, that's true. Almost like a panic attack.
Yeah.
But, so that's the sympathetic system, and again, you guys can definitely see how we are constantly operating in that system 24/7 and not the other. So the parasympathetic system then is going to be more blood flow to the intestines. What else?
Yeah, more blood flow to the intestines, definitely, and then you're also probably not breathing so to the point of like so deeply, so quickly, because you don't need as much oxygen. All of a sudden,
slow respiratory rate,
a little bit more
slower heart rate.
Yeah, and you're not looking straight ahead. Obviously, you can go ahead and engage in other activities.
Okay, all right. So those are the basic things about it. I mean, we're not describing it all. I'm not going to give you a textbook lecture of it, but those are the things that would you would see as an individual when you're in one versus the other.
And importantly, your immune cells are also working a lot better too. That being is such a key part of it.
And can it change that quickly between your immune cells will just kick right on whenever you're in your parasympathetic?
That's a very good question. If it doesn't quite immediately, but it's certainly over time, when you're in that sympathetic state for a long period of time, you're going to have suppressed immune function and response.
Right. So the longer you're in, so if you hear what she's saying, the longer that you're in the sympathetic, meaning the fight or flight response, the less time you're devoting to developing your immunity. And so you're going to be way more prone to come down with things, and we've all seen this to be true. You're not sleeping as well, and you're under a lot of stress, and boom, you come down with something. You get sick. So this is a perfect example of a little bit of why that happens. And so hopefully by stimulating our parasympathetic system, our rest and digest, and bringing those more into balance, what I'm hoping to see is that we'll have a better ability to boost our immunity and our digestion, things like that.
And to heal. Absolutely.
Which is what we're about, healing.
Right.
Okay. So some other things, these are some other neat concepts that I had learned at your office. I think we'll go down, well, before we go to, because I really like hydrotherapy, I want to talk about that. But before we go to hydrotherapy, I wanted to ask a little bit about some ways our nutrition can stimulate our parasympathetic. And
absolutely, it's amazing. So probably one of the biggest things is our sugar intake that we have within our culture. I mean, we just eat and consume so much sugar, and I have seen so many times where that's really stimulating that sympathetic response. It's truly the parents who say, no, don't eat sugar before bed because you'll have nightmares. Well, adults still have that. I still have people who come in and they wake up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning and they're panicked and they're thinking about what's going to happen next. Part of it, again, and when they don't eat sugar, they're not seeing some of the same things. And at the same time, we need a lot of good nutrients in order to get things to work well, such as magnesium and your B vitamins for stress response in order to have adapt to stressful experiences and whatnot, because we just go through so many of them when we're in that sympathetic mode. So that needs to be repleted so that we have better resilience. That's the word I'm looking for.
So how does the parasympathetic replace those? How does that work?
Well, it's more from a nutritional standpoint. So we're looking at necessarily
better digestion.
Right.
Okay.
For better digestion, you're able to absorb so many more of those. Absolutely.
Right. And I learned, through my MD side of my education, that whenever a cell phone goes off, for instance, or a baby's crying on an airplane, we release hormones in our body, cortisol and lots of stress hormones. Those all have to be broken down, and we have to form more of them. And it's required that a lot of times during chemical reactions we have something called a cofactor. And those cofactors are things like trace minerals and like
vitamins.
And vitamins. So the vitamins she was speaking of, and magnesium, things like that. Now we're not absorbing those as well right now in our culture because we're not eating as well a lot of times. We're not getting the trace minerals because we're overgrowing our food on the same soil a lot. And so even though we're trying to replenish all those trace minerals through a man-made process, it's not the same as rotating the crops and having enough land for the food growth that we're doing. And so we're already nutritionally not receiving as many of those vitamins and minerals that we need. So nice trace mineral supplements, things like that, can help replenish those as well. But also making sure that you're you're maximally getting the nutrients from the food that you are consuming, which is where the parasympathetic system comes in. But you want those things there because even your sympathetic system will fail eventually if it's run 24/7. It's not going to just keep going, and so you'll deplete yourself of those things, and you won't be able to remake more. And that's where we see our patients come in with adrenal fatigue. Now, adrenal, root word, adrenaline. Okay, so sympathetic, it comes from epinephrine. That's the chemical. That's the thing that we use whenever we're trying to get away from a predator. So your adrenal glands play a big role in that, and all those hormones that are secreted from your adrenal gland play a big role in the sympathetic system. And in order for those to reform and for you to have them when you need them, you're going to have to let your body spend some time in the parasympathetic state to be able to absorb what you need to replenish the sympathetic. It's the yin and yang of our bodies, people. So.
And if you imagine, too, just so that you know, if you don't know, those adrenal glands are like little triangles. They sit on top of your kidneys. And so it's interesting, not only do they affect the cortisol, the epinephrine, norepinephrine, but it also controls 3 other things. And we learned this in our school. We said salt, sugar, sex. The deeper you go, the sweeter it gets. That's how you remember. Right. So it has to do with blood sugar control. So I have a lot of people who come in with diabetes, and again, the stress plays into such a big key of that, so being able to manage diabetes.
She's absolutely right. I sat through medical lectures about this the same way. Go ahead.
And then your salt control as well is part of the adrenals, so blood pressure and being able to regulate salt there. And then also your sex hormones play in a big piece as well.
Great. Yeah. That's very important. We're seeing so many patients that have problems with their blood sugar. We're starting to be able to detect that much earlier on. They actually found a blood pressure medicine that they're doing some clinical trials on that they've seen has stimulated beta cells in the pancreas to regenerate, and they've cured diabetes in some mice this way. So obviously the blood pressure, all this is very, very linked together. We just haven't been able to understand it quite as well. But anything that gets your adrenaline going. So what did you say?
Blood sugar,
salt, and sex are affected by this.
The deeper you go, the sweeter it gets.
That's right. So people with many people may be interested. We get lots of patients come in interested in therapy for sex drive and or things like that. And those things your sex drive does go down with the more stressed you are, chronically fatigued you are, and that's one of the hormone changes that we see in patients. And so this is all related to our hormones, cortisol and some of those other hormones. They're all made there in your adrenal glands. So, and
this is an important place where we're making those hormones, especially as we age and perhaps we're not having enough from our sex organs below. A lot of it, the adrenal glands are taking over and doing that production.
Right. So we want to take good care of our adrenal glands. All right. So the other thing with parasympathetic we had spoken about before we started was we were going to talk about laughter and how that affects the parasympathetic system.
Absolutely. So laughter is one of the ways that you can turn on the parasympathetic system. So they've actually said, watching lots of funny movies, people have used that to help cure their cancer, just laughing so much. But finding anything that's really, really funny for you and being able to laugh frequently is a good way to turn on that parasympathetic system. And again, if we've been stuck in that sympathetic system for 6 weeks or longer or years, we need a lot of funny movies to start bringing those out.
Right, absolutely. Well, there have been plenty of studies, and we've all seen them, where they've shown that if being around friends who make you laugh, or if you will just make yourself smile at a certain number of people a day, how it can improve your health overall. And so that really fits along with it. Do you know how laughter would turn on the adrenal system? I don't know the answer to that. That might be something we have to get back to you about. And then I did have some great questions about hydrotherapy. Do you want to explain that?
Yes, I would love to talk about hydrotherapy.
And it does stimulate the parasympathetics, right? So
absolutely.
It fits.
Absolutely. Okay. So we do this a number of different ways. Now, I have a system of hydrotherapy that I use in my office called constitutional hydrotherapy, where we're alternating hot and cold towels. Of course, patients start with that nice hot towel, and they're like, oh, that's so relaxing and so nice. And then I put this ice cold towel on afterwards. Like, oh my goodness. So you get that quick sympathetic burst, but then you get a reflex from it that brings you into a deep parasympathetic state. Your body starts to warm it up. We start bringing blood flow to the area. Often it's the abdomen, to the back. We're really starting to feed that with blood, and your body's trying to warm that up. So in naturopathic medicine, we believe that it's really important to use cold. we focus on that rather than the American spa heat therapy that we love so much. And we're compassionate that we give people heat first. But it's really the cold that we're going after to really support that. Same thing if you're ever in a shower. Well, I'm not sure many of you are, but you get in that shower. If you can turn it to cold at the end, again, you get that, whoa, sympathetic response, but you get that nice, very deep warming response to where your body's bringing blood to the area. So it's redirecting the blood flow. And many times if you're getting over the abdomen or over the adrenals, we're bringing better blood flow to your adrenals. If you do it over your lower back or over your belly.
So do the cold in those areas, and then let your body warm that towel, cold towel up. So let it get extra blood flow there to try to take the cold out. And this is important because your parasympathetics are located up higher in your neck and down lower in your sacrum, and they're basically a little bit higher up here where brown fat is. And so you're going to get better. So that's where you put the towel is in the mid back.
We go all around the back, but then definitely up there. The lower part, you're getting more of your adrenal blood flow to help support that.
And then of course your stomach, that's where your intestines are, and they're innervated by the parasympathetic system. So what happens is the nerve, sympathetic and parasympathetic are a name for the nerve system.
Right, the autonomic nervous system.
So what happens is that the nerves come from the internal organs or the external organs, your muscles, wherever they're coming from, and they go into little nodes before they enter into your spinal column. And so what happens is those are located along your spine, and you have the parasympathetic or the sympathetic located back there. So the parasympathetics are what we're trying to stimulate with the cold.
Exactly. Well, again, you get that quick sympathetic burst, but it's almost, if you think about that grandfather clock and the pendulum swings so you get the quick sympathetic out here, and then it swings back to a deep parasympathetic.
And I know we do for babies and things, we'll do, if they're in an abnormal heart rate, for babies, we'll do a diving reflex to bring their heart rate out, shock their heart rate out of that abnormal heart rate. It works wonderfully. We don't do it as often anymore, but you basically take the baby and put it in really ice cold water. And then, take it out, but that'll stimulate some of the nerves that'll slow the heart rate down. And so it's been a treatment that's been used in medicine. It's cruel, but it's been a treatment that's been used in medicine for a long time. And the other thing I've noticed in some other cultures is they'll use things like baths or cold water over you, like an ice bucket challenge, but different, to kind of shock off negativity. This is more kind of my friends from Brazil, so some more kind of voodoo type stuff, but during their magic ceremony or something, they would maybe use cold, and their belief is that it shocks off negative emotion. And they've also done some things with that cold carries intention away. So you wash your hands under cold water, and if you'll think about the negative things and envision them leaving your body at that time, it takes it away with it. So cold has lots of neat implications for us.
It is. Yeah, it comes from our tradition, at least. It's coming out of that European water cure movement that was so popular back in the 1900s, early 1900s.
Why was that popular back then? I don't.
Well, what they noticed, think about what medicine was back in the 1700s and 1800s. There weren't a whole lot of options back then, what we now consider conventional medicine. So many people would use cold water, and it became popular through Vincent Priesnitz. Father Sebastian Knight was very popular about it. But people would travel from all over Europe to get these cold water treatments, and they didn't warm you up before that. It was just you started cold. Oftentimes, so they did cold water walking, cold dew walking out in the snow.
What about the cows? There was a story about the cows getting better with the cold water.
So that happened with Vincent Priesnitz. It was a deer, actually. He noticed that a deer had gotten injured and kept going back to this cold stream to heal itself. And he had a bad farm accident and started putting cold compresses over that area, and was using that to go ahead and help heal from that. And this news spread, and he had so many people come to his farm then to receive the cold water treatments. And so that's one of the places that it
Another
started.
Story I thought I'd heard from Katrina, maybe not, I'm going to see if I can get it out of her, had to do with they were watching the cattle and noticing that the ones that were going into the cold water didn't get as sick. Am I misremembering a story?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember that specifically. But yes, absolutely. There are definitely even religious orders and religious traditions that will do cold water to help prevent them from getting sick or having issues there. The cold water, ending your showers in cold, for example.
Yes, I do that because I like the adrenaline rush, but I didn't realize it was actually stimulating my parasympathetic system. So, and I've really been excited about doing like a polar bear challenge. So we may get something up with Grassroots. Are you open to doing a polar bear challenge this winter?
Yeah, as long as I get to get warm.
Okay, so we're gonna do polar bear challenge. Dr. Bogden and I will definitely do that sometime this winter. So, and we'll be talking about that on our webpage and stuff. So we'll drum up some excitement for that. All right. So I think, have we covered everything? Can you think of anything else?
Just one other thing I think that's really important to bring up.
Okay.
So the other thing too that you might notice is that, have you ever noticed that after having really good sex that people can fall asleep really deeply and well? Yeah, so that's part of it. Sex is one of the ways that we can get a nice parasympathetic response. Right before you orgasm, you get a great sympathetic response.
And the pendulum swings.
And then the pendulum swings and you go into that deep sleep. So sex is yet another great way
to stimulate your parasympathetic.
Exactly.
Oh, exactly. So recovery after sex is parasympathetic. Neat. That's great. And I told Dr. Bogden sex sells. So we need to talk about it on the show. All right, great. Thank you so much. I want to, again, for people who maybe didn't get to see the whole show, if you want to really, again, just tell them the best way to get a hold of you if they would like to make an appointment.
Yeah, if you would like to come enjoy hydrotherapy and have it done in the office for you, again, you can call 918-813-1874.
Okay. Great. And is there any other quick tips that you can think of? Anything else that we didn't cover?
No, but why don't I recap really quick? Okay. So again, make sure to go ahead and change your eye movements. Look up. Look to different directions. Focus on your exhale. So exhale twice as long as you inhale, and you can repeat that for 3 to 5 times. Really make sure that you slow down when you chew your food and to eat slowly, to bring intention, to say thank you. Those are always to bring presence to that. Laugh, watch funny movies, enjoy good sex.
Right. So. And can we do the cold thing too?
Oh, of course, right. And then in your showers on cold, or make an appointment to come for constitutional hydrotherapy.
Can we use the towels?
Yes, you could. So let's say you were to take a nice, really warm bath. You want to put a dry towel down on your bed, and then you can wring out a really cold, wet towel. Wring it out really, really well so it doesn't soak through to your bed. Put that on the dry towel and then lay down and put your back against it.
Perfect. Yes. And just until you warm it up, and then once it's warm, instead of sleeping on it all night, you could just throw it off to the side and sleep. And that would help us to sleep better.
Yes, it's great for sleep.
Great. Oh, and so we've addressed digestion. We've addressed rest and digest today. So really excited about having you on our show, and love to have you back again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. I'm gonna let Katrina go. I'm gonna read for any of you if you've got kids. Thank you for coming. For any of you that have kids that might be interested, we're reading The Spider and the Fly today, which is I think the book that we read last week. Yeah. And it didn't record, so we're going to read The Spider and the Fly. So if you have kids and they want to hear this book, I love reading children's books. It's one of my favorite things, and so I want to read this. So go get your kids, or if you're not interested, then pretty much the show's over. I just want to remind you guys to give us a call at 918-878-7733, or send your family or friends over who are interested. And I'm going to read this book now for the kiddies out there that are interested in it. So The Spider and the Fly. All right. By Tony DeTerlizzi. All right. I'm going to show pictures too. You can see here there's a little bug. Maybe I need to back up a little bit. He looks like kind of like a ghost bug, but The Spider and the Fly. We have to adjust our video here so it's not down just a little bit there. All right. So there's a spooky house there. I love this book. Trying to get the glare off. You can see inside the window. There's a big house down there. All right. There's the spider and the fly. Okay. Will you walk into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. 'Tis the prettiest little parlor that ever you did spy. The way into my parlor is up a winding stair, and I have many curious things to show you when you are there. Okay, there's the fly. "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "to ask me is in vain, for who goes up your winding stair can never come down again." So think about this really quick. Do you think that a spider and a fly should hang out together? I don't think that's very safe for the fly. Do you guys know what spiders eat? That's right, flies. So there's a picture of the two ghost bugs, and here's our spider sitting in his parlor, and look who's up there, the little flies talking to him. Let's see what they say. "I'm sure you must be weary, dear, from soaring up so high. Will you rest upon my little bed?" said the spider to the fly. "There are pretty curtains drawn around, the sheets are fine and thin, and if you like to rest a while, I'll snugly tuck you in." So he would be glad to tuck her into his little bed. Do you think he's talking about his web with the fine, thin sheets and him snugly tucking her in? He wraps her up like a bug so he can eat her. Let's see. There she is. "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "for I've often heard it said, they never, never wake again who sleep upon your bed." Now look over here. See the two ghost bugs? They have a book they're trying to show her called The Joy of Cooking Bugs. She needs to be paying better attention, doesn't she? She's just interested in hearing those nice words from that spider. Look, here she is at dinner. Very closely at the candle and at the food. All of them have legs. Look at that. I don't think that's a good idea for her to be there. Every single thing on that table has legs. Ooh. Said the cunning spider to the fly, "Dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I've always felt for you? I have within my pantry good store of all that's nice. I'm sure you're very welcome. Will you please to take a slice?" Look at her big eyes. Those are bug eyes, huh? All right. Here's her answer. I don't think she looks like she wants to try that, do you? "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "kind sir, that cannot be. I've heard what's in your pantry, and I do not wish to see." All right. There's the ghost bugs and the spider. He's showing her a picture of herself. See that? And with his other foot, he's kicking that ghost bug out. He doesn't want them telling her what they want to tell her. "Sweet creature," said the spider, "you're witty and you're wise. How handsome are your gauzy wings, how brilliant are your eyes. I have a little looking-glass upon my parlor shelf. If you'd step in one moment, dear, you shall behold yourself." See, he's telling her how pretty she is, and she's just eating it up, isn't she? There she is. She's going to leave, I think. Smart girl. "I thank you, gentle sir," she said, "for what you're pleased to say, and bidding you good morning now, I'll call another day." Hope she doesn't come back. There's the spider. He's pretty happy with his spider face. The spider turned him round about and went into his den, for well he knew the silly fly would soon come back again. So he wove a subtle web in a little corner sly, and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. He's going to eat that fly, isn't he? Uh-oh. See what comes next. There he is, up on top of his rooftop singing a song. Let's see what he's saying. Then he came out to his door again, and merrily did sing, "Come hither, hither, pretty fly, with a pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple, there's a crest upon your head. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead." Okay, see what happens next. There she came back, look. I don't think that's a very good idea. Alas, alas, how very soon the silly little fly, hearing his wily flattering words, came slowly flitting by. With buzzing wings she hung aloft, then near and nearer drew, thinking only of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hue, thinking only of her crested head, poor foolish thing. At last, up jumped the cunning spider, and fiercely held. He got her, didn't he? Oh no, what's going to happen? He dragged her up his winding stair into his dismal den, within his little parlour, but she ne'er came out again. See his shadow? And you can see he has his chef's hat on and a knife and a fork, and there's the poor little fly all wrapped up like a bug. Have you guys seen spider webs, how they wrap their bugs up and they save them and then they come and eat them? Poor little fly. She should have paid better attention. Now she's a ghost fly too. Bye-bye, little fly. And now, dear little children, who may this story read, to idle, silly, flattering words, I pray you never give heed. Don't listen to idle words. Pay attention to what's going on around you, okay? And to an evil counselor, close heart and ear and eye, and take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. So she really should not have listened to that spider, should she? Not at all. All right, that's the end. We'll read another storybook next time. If you're still with us, join us in another week. We're going to do another one next Friday, and we'll be talking live from our office again next Friday. So please join us. We'll be putting things out this week on the internet to try to see what people want to talk about, and we may or may not have a special guest speaker, but we'll get the information out to you. So give us a call if you're interested. We'd love to see you at Grassroots.